Hello and welcome to this episode of Motivation and Money with me, Mark Terrell, and my co-host Fanny Snaith. How are you today, Fanny?
I'm excellent, thank you, Mark. Yeah, had
Good stuff.
an interesting couple of days.
Yes, we were discussing beforehand. Yes, you have, haven't you? A challenge we know none of us want to have to deal with.
No.
Anyway, just firstly, before we get started, the beginning, you might have noticed that the show was. I didn't change the card on the front of the show, and it was still talking about saver or earners. If you're interested in about saving and earning, then that was the last show, and you can catch that wherever you're watching this. So it'll be on wherever you're watching this. It'll be somewhere. Today, we're not thinking about that. We're talking about what are you moving towards or away from, because it has implications for both motivation and money. And I think it's a really good topic to think about because if we're, are we helping ourselves by moving towards what we want, or are we always moving away from what we don't want? And what are the implications, essentially? So, Fanny, do you want what are your thoughts on this with regards to money and moving towards and away from?
Well, I think we've touched on this subject in a
Yeah.
number of weeks where we've been talking. And for me, it's become really important in my work because I discovered, and I think it's really important for everybody to discover for themselves, what you are prone to. I think it's really helpful to learn. So I have learned that I learned, very clearly that I generally go towards and away from motivation. I go towards and away from. I tend to go with an away from motivation. And I think that's because one of the reason that I chose the financial path that I was going to be on was because I didn't want to lose all our money or I didn't want to be poor. I never for a moment said, I want to get wealthy so I can have a house on the hill and a nice shiny car. I never said that having lots of money would give me choices. It was always because it was in a way, I didn't want to have happen what happened before. And I think we can call it an away from motivation, but I think we can also call it an extrinsic motivation, apparently.
Yeah.
So it's like saying, you better do this because if not, that's going to happen. Whereas you can have what we call an intrinsic motivation, which is you've got something within yourself that you really want to make happen, your own personal thing. Whereas usually it's something coming from outside that motivates the away from motivation, whereas it tends to come from inside.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that?
Well, I'm more in the camp with regards to everything motivational wise comes from within, because with that's what prompts what we do, and whether that's something that is driving us away from what we don't want or towards what we do want is another scenario. I think.
But that's external, though, isn't it?
In what way?
Well, I don't want to be poor. Poor is an external thing.
Okay.
I just did a little bit of reading up on it after you advertised the subject. I thought I'd better come a bit prepared. So I did a little bit of looking up, and it was quite interesting that I found this thing, and it says intrinsics, which is towards, can be positive and negative, comes from the inside, hard to simulate or foster, sustained for a longer time, hard to apply to a group or individual. This is like for in work and stuff. And outside can be positive or negative, comes from external outside subjects. The reward is an automatic booster, limited hold on the individual and easy to apply to a group. That doesn't really help at all, actually. I shouldn't read that properly, did I, before we started? But it gave examples of things like Jamie wanted to play football. He trained with the team. He wasn't very good, but he really wanted to be good. So he carried on training for an hour after everybody else to get better, and he got better.
Okay.
Whereas Fanny, in her sales managerial role, wasn't hitting her targets, and she'd been told off for not getting her targets time and time again. And then she was threatened with the sack. So she finally pulled her finger out and worked out how to speak to her team so that the sales figures increased.
Okay. It's interesting. I've never really thought of it like that. I mean, with regards to, it's a bit like inspiration, being inspired. You can be inspired by someone by what they do in a good way. So they do great things. I want to be like them. Or you can be inspired to be not like someone. So you're inspired to be definitely, I do not want to be like that. So I'm going to be away from. So it's, again, it's, your inspiration comes from something, but the actual direction of it is different directions.
Yeah. I think somebody said to me once as well, they said that if you tend to go towards away from, I got it to go towards, if you tend to lean in the way of away from, it might be that you have had more sort of trauma, big T, little t trauma.
All right.
In your life. I mean, where, and people talk about trauma a lot. It's quite a sort of trendy subject at the moment, but it's it's very valid.
Yeah.
But you're sort of going, I don't want to be there. I don't want to go there. I'm not going back there. So you can sort of get that. Really.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I think that tends to be that away from. So I've had clients that their top motivator was builder, which is the money drive. But the first thing they say is I'm not really wanting to be wealthy. I just don't want to be poor anymore, or I don't want to be poor like I was when like my parents were. So that's that sort of drive from a negative experience that they want to avoid.
Or I can't fail.
Yeah.
In business, I can't fail. This cannot fail.
Yeah.
Which is very much away from. This cannot fail. Whereas really, what you want to go is, this is the level of success that I'm looking for. Yeah. This is my goal of success, and then that's my next goal of success. So again, like financially, I don't want to be poor. I can't do that. But if we just turn ourselves around and go, right, okay, so first step 1, get out of debt, maybe start and save a buffer. Step 2, start passive investing. Great. Step 3, start doing a little bit more interesting investing. Step 4, possibly, higher end speculation, etc. When you get to a certain level of wealth, but if you've always just trying to push this bit away, I can't be poor, you're never going to embrace what's in front of you. So how does this work with all your motivators then?
So it crops up a lot actually, because it could be 2 things actually. So I'll share the motivational map, the model firstly. So for those who have not seen it, these are the 9 motivations, particularly for work. So we all have all 9 of these, but the key is to know which ones are driving us, which ones are most important to us in this moment, and motivations do change. So it's not something you just do once. You have to sort of keep on top of it and understand that you're moving in a direction, and that direction may change. So if we think about, so going away from money for just a minute, there's other things that drive our work, obviously. Things like freedom are important to most entrepreneurs. So if they're moving towards freedom, that tends to be because they haven't had any freedom in the past. They've always been managed, and so they have a negativity around being managed. So if you look at the motivators here, if you look on the right-hand side in the middle of the growth motivators, that's the spirit motivator, and you'll see it seeks freedom, independence, and makes their own decisions. So that's their main driver. So if you think about that, and then you think about the other motivators that what we call might be in conflict or in the opposite direction to them. So one would be the director, which is in the top in the achievement motivators. Director seeks power, influence, control. Now, if you've been in a position of influence or power or responsibility, then you know that tends to take your freedom away. So they're in opposition. So there are different directions there. If you want one, it's very difficult to have them both. And quite often that is a problem when entrepreneurs are trying to move on. They want to be in control, but they want freedom at the same time. And it's something they've really got to move away from that negative thing about letting power go from them, or expecting more from others. And giving responsibility to others. Another one was, again, with spirit as the top motivator, The friend, which is the middle relationship motivator, so that
Yeah.
seeks belonging, friendship, fulfilling relationships. So if you want freedom, and you don't want you're moving away from relationships, then that's what we call a double whammy, or a polarity reinforcement. So it's like your lowest motivator in this instance, say it is the friend. The thing
Yeah.
you least want
Mm-hmm.
is then backing up your top motivator, which is the thing you want freedom. So you're moving towards freedom. So if
So
those are at top and bottom, then you're really moving away from connection and towards freedom, making your own decisions.
So it would seem to me that the star would also possibly be in conflict with the spirit as well. Because if you want to seek recognition, respect, social esteem, you're going to have to work pretty hard for that, I would think. Gosh, there's a belief, isn't there? Oh,
That's an interesting one, because that's never come up. That's never been something that's been a conflict issue with regards to star, because star is getting recognised for what you do. So you could say they actually complement one another, because by being more independent, more free, you might find it easier to be recognised than if you were in a position where you weren't doing your own thing. So it's a bit of a it all depends on circumstances and context, really, with this. There's no right or wrong. But it's an interesting comment. So with regards to moving towards and moving away from, when it comes to our top motivator, whichever one it is, then the thing to think about then is, what is the lowest motivator, and is the lowest motivator actually reinforcing that top motivator, and what's the implications of that? Because the thing that we least pay attention to, the thing we least motivated by, the thing we least take action around, could possibly be our Achilles heel. And that might be the thing that is holding us back more than anything, because we are disregarding it or not paying enough attention to it, and we're focused only on our top motivator. This isn't, when you do a motivational map, it's not like, that's it, you are now this is you. You have now been decided that you're this, that, and the other. It's not like that. It's actually, this is what the direction you are going. That's why it's called a map. It's the direction you're heading, and you can choose to change direction at any time you want to. If you don't like what you see, and you think, well, it's true, but actually, do I really want to? Are those motivators actually helping me? You can, on a conscious level, decide, actually, I want to spend more time on those lower motivators, because I know they're going to help me get to where I want to go. So,
interesting. As you were saying all of that, I was mirroring in my mind people and money. Because what I hear is, really interestingly, is I haven't got time to manage my money. I don't have time. I'm always too busy. That's the first thing. But when you dig into that, I mean, we've all got the same amount of time. You then come to the question, we'll go, well, where is that on your values? And also, quite controversially sometimes, you can say that the relationship that you have with your money mirrors the relationship you have with yourself.
Yeah, I get
You
that.
It's can be quite a tough cookie to chew on that one.
Well, we know money is important, because we all need it. We can't live without it. And if you're not paying enough attention to it, and you say that you haven't got time to manage your money, that's basically saying it's not important enough, isn't it? Basically, there are other things more important than managing my money.
It is, but the problem that is, and to support that, when you are financially okay, it isn't creating you any pain. It's not giving you the pain level that you need in order to go, right, I want things to change now. That's the problem, isn't it? And so again, we're talking about extremes here, aren't we? We're talking about top and bottom. Whereas actually, if money's sort of floating around in the middle for somebody, I mean, what happens with the other motivators here that float around in the middle? Where do they? Because again, when it comes to each of these motivators, I'm guessing that each one can be approached with a towards or away from methodology, can't they?
Absolutely, yeah. So there's
So
always something behind it you can see. Because, I mean, when you use Motivational Map in a coaching context, then you can start delving into, well, why is those motivators most important to you? What's behind that? And then that's the conversation which leads to, well, I think the reason why this is the case is because X, Y, and Z. So I obviously have lots of interesting conversations about these. I can always remember one guy did a motivational map, and he said, I think he was star, director, and I can't remember the other one, but definitely star and director. And he said, yeah, the reason why those are the top motivators is because I'm constantly trying to prove somebody else wrong. I like to be in control, to allow that to happen, and I want to get noticed. And so that is definitely the drive. And the reason being is that I've constantly been told I can't do it. And that's at the back of my mind. And it was fascinating because, he was very open around saying, well, that's the drive at the moment. Until I can prove people wrong, then that's definitely going to be my drive.
wow, gosh, that must be really quite uncomfortable to live with that.
Yeah.
Always want to have to prove that you're right all the time.
Yes, and that's the sort of question I asked was, how does that make you feel? And he said, well, it's not something I'm sort of comfortable with, but I with regards to putting into context why my motivational map is the way it is, that is definitely the drive. At work, that is what I go to work for.
I would like to go to dig deeper into that. With my coaching, I would like to go even deeper and work out where that first came from, because there's obviously a seed somewhere which was planted that maybe he was wrong all the time or whatever, but where did it start? And actually about letting it go, because you've got in business archetype coaching, we have the dictator. The dictator seriously likes to be right all the time. And it comes through fear. It's based in fear. To actually have to be able to prove to be right all the time. I mean, it must be quite stressful.
Well, it's that position of that I can't actually express myself unless I'm in that position of power and influence over others. The question you ask is that actually true? Is that really the truth, or is that the reality that you created, and that's the reality that you're working on? And can you change that reality?
Well, the thing is, ultimate power, if you are, proper true leadership, comes from being able to sit there and have a motivated team who all have a voice, and that everybody's listened to. And that you can be wrong. I mean, vulnerability is a huge part of good leadership, isn't it?
And admitting that you've got things wrong. Not going political, but people need to stand up and say when they're wrong, and not keep saying they've done nothing wrong until someone proves that they have done something wrong, and then So these things are very sort of deep seated in our sort of humanity, aren't they? That we see things and we don't like people telling untruths.
No, I'm trying to think who I'm thinking of politically at the moment who might be sitting in that arena, but it just isn't coming to mind.
No, it's a bit quiet on the out. It's difficult to actually put your finger on exactly who it might be.
It's so interesting though, because I need to do this motivational map, don't I?
Oh yeah, you are. You're due to do one.
I really must do it. I must do it because I think it would be really, really very interesting. Because when I look at this now, when you talk about the spirit and seeking freedom, I've been self-employed for pretty much, or working from home for 22 years now, and actually sometimes I think the thought of going out and getting a job where you just walk into the office in the morning, do your job, and walk out in the afternoon would actually give me more freedom sometimes than all the brain power it takes to be self-employed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we've all must see things pop up and they say, "Oh, that looks like a really interesting thing," and you look at it and all the details, and you say, "Yeah, but actually, I'm just going to be told what to do, and I'm not sure whether I'm actually going to be able to do that."
I don't know.
But there is a certain amount of freedom you get from that sort of role because you don't have to work at weekends and stuff.
Yeah, or that I think I told you when I was having my midlife crisis and menopause, it was hitting its peak, and I'd lost all interest in everything and thought that my life was coming to an end. I went and got a job in Sainsbury's for 3 months working behind the till. That was only 2019, and I have to say the novelties did soon wear off.
Yes.
I'd always wanted to work on the till and not make any I don't want to make any decisions. I
Yeah.
just want to be able to go somewhere,
Yeah.
get paid a bit of money, and just have to sit and just do this stuff and focus on this stuff and not have to.
Yes. And that's interesting because I was going to, before I took this slide away, I was going to just talk about the relationship between Defender, which is the top one on the left-hand side relationship, about
Yeah,
security, predictability, stability. So being driven by those things are actually, if you think about the three growth motivators, that motivator is in opposition, because the growth motivators are very much about change, new things, bringing innovation,
of course.
freedom, and all those sort of things that are about new things and changing. So
Yeah,
it's but we all need an amount of security, and we default to it, just like you've just explained. I was just going to go and talk about this, and then you told a story about exactly what
sorry.
you do. Is you go to that place because it gives you that sense of security, predictability, and you sometimes need that just to sort of reset. And it's one of the most powerful motivators, because if it's not been met, if you haven't got any sense of security and predictability for a long period, and we've just been through a long period of unpredictability during the pandemic, and people are starting to feel it, so they're sort of like defaulting, and want some stability. And it's coming up on the work I'm doing with my clients. The Defender motivators in the top three quite regularly now, and I think that's a symptom of what we've all just been through.
When it comes to money, interestingly, so people think that they want to. Oh no, can you put it back up again?
Oh yeah, sorry.
I just still want to have a look at. So because I like this is good. So when we talk about money, people say let's say they go from they say, look, I want to be rich. When we were all little kids, right, we wish that we're going to live in a fairy castle, or going to win the lottery. When I win the lottery, when this happens, when that happens. So we sort of have these dreams and these wishes and these sort of aspirations to be wealthy, etc.
Mm.
And something that I find is that then people get bogged down because they're not, right? Then they're not. And yet there's always a side of them as well that wants that security, predictability, stability, and yet they live in the middle in this financial fog where they have no clarity around their finances, which means that they can't have certainty, you can't have stability, you can't have safety unless you have you've cleared the fog and got the clarity around where you are. And actually, many people find out that when they do clear that, get the clarity around their finances, they then can move, because the fog keeps them stuck in between Defender and Spirit,
Yeah.
as it were. Does that make any kind of sense?
Yeah. No, I do. I understand what you mean. And these things they don't stay sort of stable
No.
for a long period of time. We are always moving towards and away from things all the time. And that's the key, and that's why it's so relevant with regards to both the topics that we talk about, motivation and money. Is it's something that we all need to be aware of. Conscious of the time, just to sort of wrap up, and if we're aware of things, it's about being conscious about what are we moving towards or away from. If we can have clarity around that, then we can start making conscious decisions. And that's fundamental to both the work we do, I'm sure, with regards to helping people with their with money, and with regards to helping businesses with regards to what's driving their teams and how they can get their business to perform better by individually getting everyone on board with regards to what they need from their work. So we can talk about this for hours, I'm sure, but unfortunately our 30 minutes is quickly approaching.
So while we're at it, then, can I just talk about, because it's very relevant, can I talk about my Money Makeover again?
Yes, certainly. Sure.
So I run a 10-week course called My Money Makeover, And interestingly, actually, I'd never really thought about it. It tends to capture quite a lot of away from motivated people from money. Like, oh God, I really want to get a handle on my finances. I don't want to go to a money coach. I can't afford it. I haven't got enough money. It's scarcity, blah blah blah. But I really need to sort it out. Um, and actually, I welcome people like that who feel like that and offer an ultra affordable 10-week program to come and change your relationship with money and also learn how to start managing it. I'm not going to promise that it works in 10 weeks for everybody. However, which is why I have now launched the alumni as well, which means that every time I run it, you can come back on it for a minimal fee. So the investment for my Money Makeover is just 350 quid. So there's no excuse. So that's the other thing, there's no excuses not to come on. Yes, it's a group situation, but we have magical Zoom calls once a week, and there are online videos, tutorials, etc. to watch. And you come and join a group of people that are all like you, and you can all have a moan for a few minutes. And then what we do is we motivate you towards motivation to actually look and see what you can achieve and give you all the tools to do that. So that's starting again on July the 6th. And maybe what we could do is put the link underneath today. That would be really, really useful. But
Yep,
yeah,
we can add
so
that into the comments, and wherever you're watching this, hopefully you'll have a link to that. And then also at the end of the show, you'll see that our websites will come up, and I'm sure there's lots of details on Fanny's website. So yeah, check that out. With regards to me, I launched the Motivator Business Club. So if you are a business owner who wants a focus on motivation for yourself, and realizing that that's the key to, it's the energy that sort of drives your business, and then knowing how to use motivation with regards to understanding what motivates everyone in your team and what you play in the role with motivating them. Stressing, making, if I can speak, making sure that we don't take responsibility for motivating. The whole point of this is that once you give a motivation map to someone, it allows them to make their own decisions with regards to how they're going to fulfill the motivator. So it takes the pressure off with regards to motivation. You just need to know the role that you play. So if you're interested in that, then get in touch. And all the details you'll find on my website again. So there we are. So dead on 30 minutes. We've cracked it. We're getting quite good at this, aren't we? If you have any comments about what either of us has said, then please drop a comment in and we'll get back to you.
Yeah, and also if you've got anything that you'd like us to discuss.
Yeah, that'd be great. Indeed. So until next time, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.
See you next time.
Take care.